The shocking truth behind the Jonathan Drouin signing has been revealed, with Drouin explaining why he signed with the New York Islanders, and there was actually a bit of controversy surrounding this. We're going to discuss it on this episode of Islanders Digest. I don't think there should be controversy, but of course, especially in the dog days of the NHL, there are going to be people speaking about things. So we're going to discuss it on this episode of Islanders Digest and what I think can happen with the Islanders and Drouin, what potential I think he has in this Islanders lineup, because I do think he can have a very big role and succeed with the Islanders. With that, let's get right into talking about Jonathan Drouin. Really quickly, we're getting closer to our goal of 2,000 subscribers. So if you're an Islander fan and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. It really helps us as we continue to make Islanders content every single day. Now let's talk about Jonathan Drouin. And on his recent interview with NHL Network, he spoke a lot about what he was looking for when it came to signing with the Islanders. And one of the big things he talked about is some of the things that are offered off the ice with the Islanders. He talked about how he really liked the lifestyle amenities and team facilities with the Islanders, really liking the new arena, as well as the prospect of living on Long Island. He actually talks a lot about how he has close friends, including Anthony Duclair, which is something we're definitely going to talk about a little bit more in this video. Anthony Duclair being one of his best friends, also had a relationship with Anthony Beauvillier and Brassard. And what's really positive about this, looking as an Islander fan, is the word on what it's like to live and play for the Islanders is spreading. And it is definitely very encouraging to see more players are taking an interest in signing for the Islanders. Before, we definitely saw that players that were acquired would realize how nice of a place it is to live and decide to stay long term. And now we're starting to see that spread to free agency. And I think, hopefully, this can be leading up to the Islanders ultimately finally bringing home a big time free agent. The Islanders have never had a premier free agency signing, and I think next year might be the year. So in the long term, that is definitely something encouraging. Looking into the future of this team, and Drouin shows that this is a very attractive place to play. And I do think now that they have UBS Arena, now also that there's just more knowledge and clarity about the Islanders' future, I think this is a very desirable place to live for NHL players, which is good for the future of the Islanders. Definitely better than I think it was a few years ago, back with the Coliseum, with all that uncertainty. And definitely the Barclays Center was definitely kind of a miss in terms of getting players who want to come to New York, while UBS Arena is a huge appealing part of playing for the Islanders. Now, one thing that really surprised me when it comes to Drouin is how good of a friend he is to Anthony Duclair. And on one hand, this definitely shows that Anthony Duclair and the Islanders' relationship has not been completely severed, because clearly he was saying very positive things about the Islanders and Patrick Roy for Drouin to decide to sign with the Islanders. Also, he has a good relationship with Patrick Roy. But one thing I find really interesting about Drouin being really close friends to Duclair is, in a way, I feel like these two players are going to be competing for the same role. And I really see Drouin as a potential replacement for Anthony Duclair. And because of that, it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. But one thing I did want to touch on before we get into details on what this Islanders lineup can look like is there was a lot of controversy online. People were not happy with these comments that Drouin made, even though I was very happy to see how much he likes the area and how he wants to live here and how that could potentially spread to other players. Some people were concerned that when talking about signing with the Islanders, he didn't really focus on talking about championships or playoffs. He was more talking about lifestyle off the ice, didn't really mention anything about the prospects. And to me, I don't really care why he chose to play for the Islanders. The big thing is he did choose the Islanders, and I don't think him not mentioning those things is a deterrent or really says that he is not in it to win. I do think, obviously, there are other nice places to live. I think this was a good balance for him between being competitive and also having a good life. I think for Drouin, that's a very important thing, as we're going to talk about in just a little bit. This is a player who has openly struggled at times, especially when he was playing in Montreal with mental health issues. He suffers from anxiety, openly talking about it, which I actually really appreciate. Also insomnia, and I do appreciate a lot that Drouin is actually open about some of these mental health struggles. I think it makes it easier for other people out there who are going through the same issues to see an athlete such as his caliber really go through. I think that's a real positive, and that was another thing that people were hating him online for, saying, "Oh, they don't want a player like that on the Islanders." I think Drouin is going to be a really good fit for the Islanders. If anything, I kind of wonder if this is going to hurt Duclair moving forward, because I just think he's a better fit for what Duclair was brought in to do. Talking about the on-ice role Drouin is going to have for the New York Islanders. A year ago, Anthony Duclair was brought in not to be a driving force on the first line, but to really play with the Islanders' top players. When it comes to creating a good first line in the NHL, it's very rare that you're going to have the opportunity to get three just elite players. While it's always the goal, there are only so many elite players in the NHL. And what I think Drouin is really good at doing is he's not going to drive a line on himself by himself. If he's playing on the third line, he's really not going to be that effective. He's going to get a point here or there, but for the most part, he is going to be invisible. But when he plays with your top players, he's able to elevate their games and really get the best. Playing with the Colorado Avalanche, he really showed that playing with Nathan MacKinnon. While the Islanders don't have their own Nathan MacKinnon, they do have some really skilled centers in Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal. And Drouin being a playmaker, I think he fits perfectly with Bo Horvat, allowing Bo Horvat to play with Drouin rather than Mathew Barzal, so they can now have two effective offensive lines. The Islanders don't have any talents, so they're going to have one of the top first lines in the NHL. The way they're going to be able to win games, hopefully, this season is by splitting the talent between the top two lines and having a hopefully 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. Because looking at the depth of this roster, it's something that's really exciting. And I think Drouin is the perfect player to play with Bo Horvat. You look at his production last season, again, he was not a play driver. But when playing with Nathan MacKinnon, he was able to put up 11 goals, 26 assists, or 37 points in just 43 games, almost on a point per game pace if he played a full season. The year before that, he put up 56 points with the Colorado Avalanche. He's a player who's definitely found a way to be a complementary piece on a team. Again, he's not going to be the play driver, but when you're giving him $4 million for only 2 seasons, you don't really need Drouin to be a play driver. And as long as he can be productive in the top 6 for the Islanders, this is going to be a great signing. I think the value was really good because in terms of being that type of player who can really elevate your top players, I think Drouin is a step up from what Duclair was hopefully supposed to be last season. Obviously, things did not work with Duclair. A lot of that was due to injury, and that's something you're going to have to worry about when it comes to Jonathan Drouin. He's suffered a lot with injury throughout his NHL career. I'll note some of these seasons in Montreal where he missed a lot of games. It was also him taking some time out to work on his mental health, which I am never going to criticize a player for understanding that's what needs to be done and taking care of it. But in the recent 2 seasons, most recently, he suffered an injury this year for the Colorado Avalanche, but still played half the games, and he was available for the end of the season. I think this is a player who is going to succeed with the Islanders, and if the Islanders are going to have a competitive run next season, Drouin is going to be a huge part of that. Looking at his JFresh chart, I think it exemplifies what Drouin is very well. He's a middle 6 to top 6 player who, again, is not going to drive the play. He's not going to provide a ton of value defensively, but he's going to be really good at when plays are happening. Say like Mathew Barzal is passing Bo Horvat. He's really good at making that big pass, making it so a player like Bo Horvat, a goal scorer, is able to get that big goal because he is a quality playmaker. There are flaws to his game, and I think if the Islanders were one of the best teams in the league, they would not have a player like Drouin in their top 6. But Drouin is definitely an upgrade over what they currently have, and I really think this potential lineup of Drouin, Horvat, and Palmieri, we'll see how it works with the wingers, although I will say Drouin being a playmaker, playing with Bo Horvat, who can really do a bit of both, and Palmieri, I think that could work as a first line. I honestly would like to see perhaps a player like Holmstrom in that role, or maybe even Shabanov. I think I would actually, second thought, actually prefer to have Holmstrom playing with Barzal. I think that is a real interesting pair, but it just shows there are a lot of combinations with this Islanders team, and I think if the Islanders are going to be a successful team, I think Drouin is going to be a huge part of that, because that's going to allow Horvat to continue playing without Barzal and really have the Islanders have two very productive lines, especially now that Nelson is no longer with the team. This is going to be essential if the Islanders are going to be competitive next season. And it'll be really interesting to see if Drouin ends up taking away a roster spot from Anthony Duclair. Because as of right now, Duclair is slated in on the third line with Pajot and Shabanov. And one thing I'm kind of thinking of early is I think I would rather have Siplikov or Heineman play more minutes on the third line than Duclair, especially after what Duclair did last season, considering that these are two players who are younger and have more potential. And if that's the case, then I don't see Duclair as a fourth line player. So considering his really good relationship with Drouin, it would be really unfortunate if this signing ends up taking Duclair's spot away from the lineup. But Duclair is a player, in my opinion, who I actually think he still has the potential to be effective in the top six. I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt when it came to his injury last season, but even when healthy, I think Drouin is a clear upgrade over Duclair. He has a similar skill set, and I think he just has a bit more potential when it comes to the offensive side. And while I'm not going to say that Drouin has a good defensive game, looking at the stats, it is not a good defensive game by any means, but I think it is a bit more reliable than Duclair's. It's not like Duclair is some penalty killing machine or really provide any positive value on the defensive end in general. It's be really interesting to see what happens here. Let me know what you think about the Drouin signing. I know it's been a while, but I felt like we had to cover Drouin a bit more and my expectations for him on the Islanders this season. What do you expect? How many points do you think he can put up on the Islanders? I would say if he can put up 50 points on the first or second line, I would be very satisfied with this signing. Love to know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go Islanders.